And welcome back, Cosmic Family, to another episode of Lunacy and
Logic.
yeah, with your host, Dr. Charlier. I'm an elemental alchemist and healer, bringing ancient wisdom back to a modern time.
I'm Lilith, the Kundalini alchemist, guiding you through sacred transformations of consciousness.
Yeah. So kind of get your mic a little bit closer, and you're a little muffled. There we go.
Oh, a little muffled.
There we go. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so my hair is in the way.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool.
Now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we're still kind of still figuring out the technical difficulties, y'all, but this is still part of our, I guess, Gemini and Uranus and Gemini. So a lot of things we're still tweaking as we're setting up our new little podcast studio here. So let's get right
For
into
sure.
it. Shall we go into the codes of destiny and let us know what's going on in the ethers so we can get right into some deep conversations?
Well, Charlie, so much has been going on. I tell you, I've been feeling the heaviness of Neptune and Saturn in Aries. My Chiron in the first house in Taurus has been activated. I have uh, major self-worth issues busy getting worked through, and I'm fighting with God because I keep on telling him, how am I supposed to build my self-worth if you keep on doing things that knock it down? So me and God are in a circular fight to the death. um, and that is where I'm at.
Different position for sure. I think I'm in a lot of things are going on in more of like my ninth and tenth house. So a lot of belief changes as well as work, right? Work space has changed quite a bit for me and kind of developing that. But also like the Aries stuff is happening in the eighth house. We're talking also Uranus and Gemini. Is I think Pluto retrograding or has retrograded? Yeah.
It has retrograde. I think it went retrograde on about the 6th of May.
Yeah, so that's also affected my daily life because that was happening in my sixth house, Pluto in Aquarius. So been kind of managing the everyday life where I'm trying to add new routines that are, I guess, much more expansive because Aquarius wants us to be more expansive, where I have a lot of Capricorn in that. So it's been of going from trying to be physically setting habits to more of expansive habits that are really, I think I'm getting called to do more of my Qigong practices, which is very Aquarian and that's being like in my face a lot. And so I feel physically like I'm having physical ailments because it's teaching me to actually develop my Qi a lot further so that I can experience that Aquarian, I guess, not healing, but Aquarian everyday lifestyles, right? So that's happening in my sixth house. But I'm really excited actually to talk more about Uranus in Gemini, which feels very disclosure-esque vibes. As you can see, the little UFO here, we have definitely some deep conversation to talk about today with the UFO conversation.
For me, disclosure is not only UFOs, right?
Yeah, of course.
And that's one of the things I wanted to go into. I wanted to go into what is disclosure exactly and how it's linked to the law of consent and why it's important. Like why is everybody talking about disclosure? What is the spiritual purpose behind it? So that's kind of the thing. And yes, I think disclosure is very Uranus in Gemini. So Uranus is going to be in Gemini. Was I think it moved into Gemini permanently now in April 2020, 2026, and it's going to be there until about May 2033.
No,
So
that 33 number.
so this ride's only getting started. It's only just
Yes,
getting started.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here specifically since April, in the last 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks, the Trump administration released The UFO files. Now, granted, it is just the tip of the iceberg. Yes, if you guys go to
What was
www.war,
released exactly? I didn't hear about this.
yeah, go to www.war, WAR, like war, fight, like Aries war, .gov, gov. So it's a government website, right? So it's got that Saturn vibe into it, slash UFO. Okay? If you guys do that, you'll see that the administration, CIA, FBI, have released everything that they have about basically unidentified flying objects that has basically traveled around. And a lot of it they've talked about recently. Some of it was in Turkey, some of it was in Greece, and they show, I think, either drone footage or airplane footage, or basically like pilots, jet pilots who are flying and they're seeing and
Now,
following.
how old is that footage?
Some of it is just less than a year. Some of it is pretty recent. Some of it goes back to the 1960s. So now, granted, it's just the beginning. It's only, they're saying it's about 5% already released. That means just like the Epstein file, they've only released just a fraction of the information for us to kind of process it. Because, like you say, with consent, you can't dump 100% of the UFO files. They're really doing a trickle down, every month, maybe. I'm okay with every month, I'm not perusing it. I don't have the
We can do
time.
this throughout the transit of Uranus in Gemini, and that coupled with Pluto in Aquarius, which is also disclosure energy. It's like double disclosure energy. But both of those are going to be okay. Uranus in Gemini is only about another 7 years, whereas Pluto in Aquarius is basically another 15 years. So
Yeah.
uh, that will probably be, I reckon, once Uranus leaves Gemini, the rest of the Pluto transit will be processing all the information we receive with Uranus in Gemini. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. So this is kind of what would be really interesting to see is I think we're just in the beginning of it, and it's gonna feel crazy now because it's the first time we're getting this revelation, right? But I think throughout the years, we're all probably gonna get used to it. Eventually we'll be like, oh, another release of information, and we're not really gonna freak out about it. But right now, there's been a freak out about it because we've been living in conspiracy land where we believe that the government's been hiding stuff from us. And now it's the first time that the government's saying, okay, you're right. We have been hiding stuff from you. Here's the information. So I think revelation and disclosure is a very, very, very big conversation because, yes, the ET UFO conversation is probably just a fraction of that story. However, I think there's just so much more. Personally, I'm a big fan of disclosure in the medical space because I am in the wellness space, medical space. We both are, and you're going to see that acupuncture is going to start standing above many conversations because the Western medical space has had a lot of conspiracies that need to come out because they've conspiracy against humanity, right? And so it's very aligned that Uranus is going to be the one who forces the medical system to release information about what spirit and humanity has been experiencing, and that suppression of information.
Well, I mean, this is the point. So for me, the disclosure, like you said, it's information that was hidden by the government. So it's really full disclosure is really about, you know, providing the truthful facts around accurate events that have happened on this planet. So this can be anything from, aliens to shadow governments to you name it. It's really all about disclosing truthfully everything that has happened on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we have seen a lot of disclosure around government secrets and things going wrong in the government. I mean, even here in South Africa, there's you know you you privy to the information that is going on within the governments, even though no corrective action seems to be taken yet. But I don't think that the corrective action is quite necessary just yet. What we need to do is start receiving the information that's being disclosed and processing it and we'll discuss that now, because this boils down to, the law of informed consent, which You said now in the medical field. I mean, informed consent is very relevant in the medical field, right? It's been contentious even. So you kind of extrapolate that informed consent from the medical field to, like, you know, all of your life, and then you can start comprehending, you know, the the role of consent. It's a similar role to what you would find in the medical, and which is what that is to make, to know and understand all the facts involved, to have a reasonable mental capacity to understand the consequences and risks involved, and then to be able to decide without external influence. You get to decide then, based on that information, what is the best course of action, and to follow through on that action without any form of coercion or manipulation. And the reason why the law of consent is so important, it's basically like an ideological, ethical, more like an ethical principle, right? Or an ethical doctrine, in terms of it's preserving human rights. But I would say, I would take it a step further and even say preserving your spiritual rights. This is like, that consent enables you to have self ownership. You know what I'm saying? uh, and do it according to what you want to do, which also prevents, abusive conduct towards you, um, which can be in the physical or the non-physical. So it goes quite far, but it generally is a preservation of your human right. It boils down to a preservation of your human right to be able to make your own decisions and to act on your own things without anybody else getting involved. So it's really, um, allowing you to fully tap into your connection with source, with all the information available, and then decide, okay, me and God, this, based on all this information, this is what we're going to do. You know what I'm saying? Because it really is a decision between you and God. It shouldn't be based on anybody else coercing you or manipulating you into a certain action.
Yeah, so if we were to kind of look at the main three transits are very important for us that we're talking about this because it is this personal slash collective transit. So we talk about this heavy stellium in Aries, right? Where Neptune is there with Aries. So that means the ego is having a deeper conversation with God. That's been our trend with the
Exactly.
podcast. And then with Saturn showing up there, it's kind of like now that you know what God is talking to you with about, you're like, oh, do I need to create new structure that allows more of this spiritual connection to the divine as I'm making, because of Aries, it's all about your ego and your sovereignty. And so because of that, goes back to like the consent of the ego, the consent of you as your personal story and mission. Now, because it has Neptune, it brings the spiritual mission into your ego, which before we didn't have a spiritual ego mission. We had more of an ego life where we were
No, that
living.
was 160 years ago was our last spiritual ego mission.
Exactly. And so now, but we've been
The
kind of
last
like
time Neptune was in Aries.
living that off. But now it's like with Neptune coming in, it's like, no, you have to be aware of that spiritual aspect of who you are. And then I think with Uranus in Gemini, you're getting that Gemini Aquarius energy together, right? That's very much the collective, and that has basically Gemini is very much a trickster slash relieve information, like gathering information and being curious about information. But yet Aquarius slash Uranus comes with like, but it has to be a spiritual revolution, right? Of spiritual information being released amongst the curiosity of Gemini. And then on the other side of this trine, that crazy trine that we're experiencing, is Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto has this almost this what's it called? Scorpio energy, which Scorpio likes to dig shit up from the dark, right? I would say the motto for Scorpio is what's it called? Digging up the
Death.
past. Yeah, death. And but
For me, it's like death.
it's really about going into the shadow space of like things are hidden from us and pulling it out from the dark, deep underground of it, right? So
Right.
it's
And this
basically
is of like 12th energy where you can't pull it out, right? It's hidden. 8 hours, you can still pull it out.
Yeah, but Scorpio is also kind of like making us
So
deal
it's
shadow
secretive,
work.
but you can find the secrets.
Right.
With 12th house, you can't find the unhidden because that's
Yeah.
the point. It's unhidden. You can't see it.
But that's
So
but
that's the
that's
thing that I like about Scorpio over Pisces
right.
is you can
Right.
still get to the bottom of it, you
Exactly.
know?
And it's happening in Aquarius, which we already said Uranus and Aquarius has the same similar energy of like spiritual rebellion, right? So you put that spiritual rebellion, and those people who are rebelling for spirit is gonna go dig shit up. And that's why now you're seeing really the theme of disclosure, right? Is Pluto is digging up conspiracies basically, while Uranus in Gemini is going to ask a ton of questions because now they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If we're disclosing this, what does that mean to us? And then everyone is not going to be talking about it, podcasting the hell out of it. I think that's why podcasting and the online community are much more active than the mainstream media, who has been hiding all of this for a long time. And then you're having kind of like the poor me energy of Aries with
Why did I
Neptune.
shift so big now? I became so big.
You probably move forward. I don't
No,
know.
I didn't move. The camera moved me by itself.
Aries in Neptune made you a little bit larger than life.
Yeah, I've got, so I'm in my home and I've got Jupiter conjunct my IC right now, bro. Jupiter is gonna make me look big no matter what I do.
So Jupiter kind of pressed that button and made you
Don't even get me
so
started.
that's kind of
Yeah.
where I feel like a lot of us are experiencing this personal to collective drama, right? Because in your own experience, God is kind of like shining light on the things that you have maybe not been aware of, right? The hidden from you. But then Saturn comes in and say, yeah, and make that a thing. Like, don't just like ignore it, like make it into your next like structured habit of being aware of this Neptune in your ego, spirit with your ego. But I do think the Uranus and Pluto energy is going to be a very intense, dramatic experience of our reality where it's almost like you can't tell what is right or wrong. Even with AI, you can't tell what is
But
also,
no, that is Neptune and Saturn in Aries right there. Disclosure, ironically, initially will confuse the people more, not provide clarity. It's going to confuse them more. It's going to confuse them about even their core identity. With Neptune in Aries now, I mean, and then Uranus in Gemini, I'm telling you, that's a lot more mental problems there. I mean, it's going to be mental, yeah. It's going to be completely mental.
yeah. And so it has
So
been,
I definitely see like increased mental problems over the next few years displaying themselves. And that's just like, people getting this information and not having quite mastered the art of discernment just yet, because right, that's what this process is for. And so yeah, not knowing whether they're going crazy or not, and having some mental instability for sure.
yeah, and it has been reported, many people have reported now, and obviously we can't keep our mouth shut with the internet, but many pastors, many religious leaders have been brought to private meetings with other religious leaders to start talking about what happens when the conversation of UFOs start to change the conversation of religion, and why certain religion, many religions, not gonna say which ones because it's gonna create a lot, but many religions foundations are really based on these extra dimensional, extraterrestrial beings who have been seeded our consciousness for a long time. We created books around that. I really believe that most religions are based on really contact with extra dimensional beings. And we did not know how to explain that. And so we created concepts around that to help explain everybody else what happened. And over time, with people dying and passing on information either through word of mouth or through books, and then book burning, and then killing people who knew information, you're getting this like diluted slash misinformation of these contact scenarios where maybe some of them were probably telling us lies, but some of these extra dimensional beings were telling us truth. And because they were telling lies and truth back in the days, some of us called it angels and demons, some of us called it jinns and whatever. Like even in the East, there's all kinds of different names for like the gods and then the Dharma and the sun god. Like there's even the Hindus, they had different version of these ancient gods coming down from the heavens, from space, from the firmament, sharing information to us. So I think that is going to be part of the confusion because so many people have lived with the identity. I'm a Christian, I'm a Jew, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a that. And that was their identity. And suddenly now to kind of face the identity, we go really deeper into who has been telling you this information and why do you believe these kind of religious stories? Because if those religious stories were built off of lies, then what is your faith in who you are and you identify as today? So I do think, and that's going to cause a lot of mental, and this is where I think coherence of the heart is very important, being in tune with what your heart feels rather than what your mind believes, right? Because a lot of times our heart knows what is truth, but our mind will make up lies or truth depending on what it's feeling or depending on what it's raised under, right? So some of us, depending on where we are raised under which culture, from the east to the west, from different groups of suppression, those were the stories that we've been led to believe, and so we believe. Even the idea that we came from monkey and evolution, yo, like this is going to change the way we even talk about this evolutionary theory because Darwin, only one man, thought about the idea of monkey evolution, right? Well, him and many other, but really it was just a few Westerners who really pushed this idea of evolution from monkeys. And when that changes and we realize that even in the Bible that ancient gods started to affect our genetics, how will we even process that mental confusion?
No, exactly, exactly. Because I mean, yeah, I think I think I don't question evolution. I mean, I studied, you know, um, biology and science in even at college level, and we, taught like the origin of like the bacteria and the amoeba and those, small, what do they call them? Euro Eurocoats. Do you
Yeah,
remember that name?
yeah.
And then even before that. And it was only thing. So, and then life formed. So, evolution itself, I'm not questioning. But I think what might be questioned is the seeding of mankind.
And even the idea of
We may have
evolution.
evolved from monkeys. We may have been planted here. We don't know yet.
Well, even the conversation of evolution, right? Sure, there might be truth to evolution, but whether or not evolution from an amoeba to a human happened in 8,000 years or billion of years is still a conversation for debate because it makes no sense that we went from an amoeba to 8,000 years to a human, yet we have proof that there are these giant reptilians called dinosaurs or dragons back in the days that lived billions of years. Yet we came from this concept of an amoeba to become human, or from a monkeys to become human in less than 8,000 years. And so the math doesn't math because the problem
Where are
is
you getting 8,000 years from?
because our written history is 8,000 years, actually. Our current
Okay, but the point
history.
is, I feel like humans in their current, so now we're not talking Denisovans and all of those new human species that we're now discovering. I'm talking the current human species started being seeded, let's say 250,000 years ago.
Right,
So
even
remember, I don't. It's not that humans came and then all of a sudden we started recording our history.
so in today's scientific community, there's no human that's lived beyond 250,000 years. Currently speaking,
Yeah,
cur
so that's what I'm also. My evidence also points like 250,000 years before that. It's like a different human species.
but in today's current history, like our history as humans and what we know as humans didn't happen and from only from the last 8,000 years. So 8,000 years tends to be
Yeah,
like.
but I mean, there's drawings in Azerbaijan, cave drawings, which I've seen that are 14, were they 14,000 or 49,000 years old? Either way, it's way more than 8,000. So, do you know what
Right.
I'm saying? I
Correct.
think it because it's one of the oldest cave drawings on the planet in
But
Azerbaijan.
but so what I'm saying is in scientific community, that's not fully all agreed upon that those cave drawings and even what they represent, because a lot of
Well,
it,
it's agreed upon in Azerbaijan.
right, but that's one culture. In Western science, they have their own perspective. That's what I'm saying is we are all confused because every culture has its own
No,
version of the story. But
I
in
think, no,
Western
but that's the
science,
point. I don't think anybody's confused. I think science is taking into account a fraction of the information themselves
but that's what you learn
and
in
drawing
school.
conclusions that are not even possible to draw based on the information you have.
Correct. But
Because in any way, they've got information that contradict what they're saying, but they completely ignore it.
exactly.
So,
That's revelation, right? Because I mean, in literally in these biology books that I studied, that's the story I learned in my upbringing. So that means that and I'm
that's the
not,
story you learned exactly.
well, that we're not beyond 8,000 years. Humanity has not been longer than at least 8,000 years. But in today's modern archaeology, we keep finding more and more proof that we're older than 8,000 years. But that has not been passed on to the education system. So in the Western scientific model, they still don't believe in these myth that human have been around longer than really 8,000 years. That's what I'm saying. Is like,
Yeah. Well, here at Lunacy and Logic, we're not too concerned about what delusional people believe. I mean, to completely ignore evidence and discount it and then educate the population wrong. I mean, well, then no worries. Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini will fix that shit very fast.
but that's what I'm saying is because of that shift, we're starting to get more of that information disseminated through the internet to people. But again, like 20 years ago or more, less than 50, when I was in college, those were not the stories we were told or taught. Or really, we paid for this
No, for sure.
education and we have a degree based on this education. So many people who have these scientific education of the West do not believe that we are old at all. So that's all I'm saying. They don't believe that humans were around 250,000 years or
No,
even
but so the point
near
is,
the age of dinosaurs. That's
okay,
currently
fine,
where they're at. Yeah.
fine. But I'm saying, like, for instance, Egyptologists, and I've spoken to Egyptologists in Egypt before. They're all delusional. And now the whole world thinks that the pyramids were built like 2.5, 3,500 years ago. You're saying we're only admitting that humans were here for 8,000 years. And I'm saying the pyramids are pointing to a time of at least 12,500 years ago. So there's already fact. That's facts on facts. And then you've got Azerbaijan, who's not saying that the cave paintings are newer. Why would they? They have no motive to go outside of mainstream science and say something is older that almost seems ludicrous for the general population to believe, right? And I'm sure they have ways of dating that to at least to some extent. So I mean, it goes without saying. Then you've got Angkor Wat in Cambodia. So I was talking to my cousin because she's living in Cambodia at the moment. And I told her, because me and her definitely had a past life in Angkor Wat. When I was there, I could feel it. And ironically, she ended up like just down the road from it. So I know for a fact me and her spent a past life in Angkor Wat. Anyway, I told her, I said, you have to go there and tell me if you feel it. She's a Pisces, bro, but she said she didn't feel anything. I give up. But anyway, the point is, she tells me, and she's teaching there, right? She's a teacher, that um, Angkor Wat was built by, I think there seems to be currently some argument between Thailand and Cambodia as to who owns Angkor Wat and therefore who built Angkor Wat. And so she told me, like, she teaches that it's, Cambodian and it's built by the Cambodians or whatever. And I'm like, you freak show. I said, the reason why those oaks are fighting about who built it is because they don't know. They don't know who built it. They don't know when it was built. It's always just been there. No civilization has claimed it. We don't know where it comes from, what it was used for, this is a past human civilization that was destroyed somewhere along the line, and then we came. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not even built by the same peoples. And I think the same goes for the pyramids, not just the pyramids in Giza, but even Yucatan, China, you name it, all over the world. The, um, the Amazon, they've got LIDAR now, that there were structures there. They're saying cities of like 30 million people. We're talking now cities the size of like Mexico City or Mumbai in India or like Beijing. Do you know what I'm saying? In the Amazon. I mean, you can't refute the evidence anymore when it's there, when it's fact.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's the conversation of disclosure, right? Because many people have found facts across the world that we're a much older civilization, but in a lot of today's standards of degrees in the West, and I'm going to say that specifically because of that's where I've been raised and I've been told these lies, that's the suppression, right? And that's colonization suppressing ancient knowledge by saying, no, you guys are ancient and dumb. You need to be modern like us so that you can be educated and smart. Right? That's also a lie because they've been peddling lies for so long, yet the facts on facts of what other cultures know about the history tells us otherwise. And that's the mental disorder that we're having today, the conversation of discernment, because many people still believe what the news on the TV says about where things are. And many of us who have done any simple research outside of the country of the United States or colonial England know that there's a lot more to the story than they've told us about, right? And that I think is really this deeper conversation of disclosure, right? Is even in disclosure, how old are we? Are we an ancient colony of humans who had, spacefaring humans? That's a deeper conversation. Talking about Atlantis, that's a myth to science today. Yet, so many movies talk about as if it's real because so many of us remember our stories of being from Atlantis. And so
I
this
think
is
that the story that gives me credibility of Atlantis is Plato. That's really the only link we have to Atlantis being real is Plato.
But that's a Western representation of that. In many other cultures, the Asians had a culture based on Atlantis or Lemuria that they also talk about, but they didn't call it Lemuria, right? And that's been like, oh, the Asians, they don't know anything. Oh, the Middle Eastern, they don't. Really, a lot of times, a lot of colonization happened into those countries to go and hide the facts. They went to Egypt, and what did they do? They stole all the artifacts, brought them to England, and said, we have Egyptian monuments. But only the monuments we want you to see, some of the stuff that we took that tells us that we're older than this long, are hidden probably under underground bases of the Smithsonian, right? I think the Smithsonian is a big deal too because they've been hiding a ton of archaeological facts that we have found.
Sure. And even the Vatican.
Yes, yes, obviously Vatican's a big one too. Gobekli Tepe, it's a really hard, difficult one for me to say, but go.
Göbekli Tepe, yeah.
Yeah, that one changed the conversation from 8,000 years to like I think it was 13,000 years, where they said that civilization was as old as 13,000, maybe longer. The problem is
Yeah, they're saying maybe longer because once again, like Angkor Wat, they don't really know when it was built. They just know that nobody nobody knows. Nobody
yeah.
claims it.
Even
Like,
carbon dating is still not fully scientific the way they do it because they're just using kind of reference to what they think is carbon in the past. But again, if you don't have a right map of timing, your carbon dating is already off.
I mean, fine, but we do have some facts. And the point is, I heard a saying the other day. It was like something along. I'm not going to get the exact wording right, and it was so well said, but I'll give you the gist of it. It was something along the lines of, "You can win a wise guy over with facts, but you cannot win a fool over with facts." In other words, if you're dealing with a fool, walk away. Don't even try and hit them with facts because it's hitting a brick wall. Like, and you see that today. Like these people are just denying outright science. Like They just don't identify with science.
Correct. Yes. Today's Western science
They
is
don't identify with facts on facts.
well, that's what I'm saying is I think today's science is political science, and true science is no longer science because everybody has been paid to tell you what science is. So even science is as really a religion to me, like Christians, because they have chosen their box of where they'd like to sit in that scientific box. And that's kind of where I think the idea of disclosure is going to break everybody's box, whether you're
Yeah,
religious, whether you're
oh, sure.
scientific,
If it's one
everybody's
thing that it's going
box.
to do, it's that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And even just our conversation, like this is just talking about civilization, but like imagine,
Pluto in
dragons.
Aquarius wants no box at all.
Yes, yes, yes. But some of us are super conspiracy geeks and like we love to talk about this, but this is where I think we're going to become like the historians of tomorrow because we have really done the global research of our history. And when you do the global research of our history, you start to notice there's actually deeper links of how ancient civilizations were connected globally in one planet. I think at one point Atlantis, Lemuria was this by culture of the two, East and the West, right? Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. And they represented these vast empires of a colony before what everybody calls the 12,000 year floods, right? And so I think a lot of these civilizations have been hidden. Antarctica represents some of that civilization. And that's why Antarctica is another whole huge conspiracy host of information, right? Some people call it the firmament, the ice wall. Some people call it Antarctica as old Atlantis. There's just so many conversation. And that's where, like, I think, because if there's an argument, what is the past of this continent? That is a deeper conversation. Like, we should look further. That's actually, the only continent that has everybody's flags there. Like, we are all at war, but for some reason, Antarctica, we are at peace with each other. What? Yeah, apparently there's like all the flags of the countries above
But what are you really
Antarctica.
going to do with that piece of land? That's why nobody's fighting for it. I
Exactly.
mean, I'm now talking about outside of the fact that there's anything valuable underneath, right? Let's assume now that it's just barren ice because anything underneath it is more at this stage conspiracy. The facts haven't been disclosed to the broader population. But the fact of the matter is, if that is the truth, then that's why nobody's going for it because it doesn't benefit them from a profit perspective. There's
Well,
nothing there.
if there's land, it's definitely profit because we all see land, right?
Well,
As
not if it's covered in ice, right? Because you also can't just go digging in ice and releasing bacteria from like 42,000 years ago that can wipe out the entire population. Like, it's also a delicate situation.
so there's been situation recently. If you guys know the Fitbit and how the Fitbit was recording where you were walking and it was GPSing your walks around town. Turns out,
I didn't know it was following your location. I thought it was just counting your steps.
no, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
The fancy Fitbits ones were GPSing,
Yeah.
so you could see on a map where you had walked.
Oh, yes, the walk that you did on the map. Yes, people would post that online. Yeah.
Turns out someone was wearing a Fitbit in Antarctica, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of these walking inside the ice, and it happens to follow a really interesting looking structure underneath. If we were able to do some deep search of the pyramids and find there's all these things underground the pyramids, but
They
we
say
haven't
there is.
exactly. And that's like again part of disclosure is oh, we just found out there's a whole thing going on under the pyramids and the Sphinx.
Well, I don't know about disclosure because we haven't gone down there ourselves, right?
But the fact
So
is
we've just used LiDAR.
right because that equipment is finally proving to us what
That
many
there is something
psychics
there.
have
Yeah.
said and many
Yeah.
prophecies have said that eventually we would realize there are things under the pyramids and the Sphinx. But yet no one has pointed that LiDAR down to Antarctica to tell us, oh, there's nothing going on under Antarctica. The conversation then is like, why aren't we
Yeah, yeah,
using that?
I'm sure they'll get to it. The fact of the matter is, there's so much of the planet's surface that we would need to LiDAR, right? Um, Antarctica is definitely on that list, but we haven't even LiDAR'd most of Amazon.
Right.
So
But
the,
it's
and then you've got how many other pyramids and sacred places elsewhere in the world.
right.
So really, I mean, the extent of places where you can do lidar. So just because they haven't done Antarctica yet, I don't think
But the conversation
it's a red
is
flag. You know
who
what I'm
owns
saying?
LiDAR? Who owns LiDAR? Who's paying to point that out, right? So the conversation is, oh, Egypt is fine. We could open up Egypt, but don't open up Antarctica. And so this is the conversation of like why this whole Pluto, Uranus in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius. We want to know, we're curious, and we should control the technology that we pay for if we're paying our taxes to go into these machines that the space system pays for. If our government is building those, we have the right to know this information because we pay taxes to
Exactly.
have this technology. And so if the whole world says, hey, point that shit at Antarctica and tell us the truth, and they're saying no, then we already know our answer, right? And so this is why conspiracies come up because every time we tell the system, hey, we want this, and they say, no, you can't have it, you can't handle the truth, that's been disclosure. With disclosure and revelation, the book of Revelation, I believe that the ones in authority no longer have the power to tell us what we cannot do. And so if we start to wake up and start to become and band together to say, hey, we have chosen to say we want this. I mean, basically, everyone say we want UFO transparency. So then our government currently said, okay, we'll give it to you. And so he released. Granted, you can argue, oh, maybe he's releasing not the full thing and we're still hiding it. Sure. But we just
He's
started.
still the first one to release anything at all.
Exactly. And
So
and based
I
on
guess what we would
astrology,
have
we
to
just
question now
started.
for the
We just started
yes,
Revelation.
but what we would have to question now based on our own advice that we've given so far or information we've given so far is that we would have to discern whether the information provided by the government is real or not.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So this is a deeper conversation. However, I think people who have been saying or being called
Question everything.
people who have been called conspiracy theorists are no longer being called theorists, but they're being called truthers because it turns out most of this suppression.
Conspiracy truthers.
Exactly. It's starting to come up. And even the idea of the word conspiracy, actually, if you look at it, it was a psyop by the FBI, CIA, FBI post John F. Kennedy, who got shot, and saying that anyone who wants to fight the story of what happened to JFK was considered a conspiracy. And that's where that word comes from because it was trying to tell people don't look into JFK. Don't look into it. You're not allowed to. So anybody who does is called a conspiracy. So that then happened for everything that anyone was looking at, right? You know, and go what? Oh, that's conspiracy. Only the Cambodians did it, right? That's a conspiracy if you think it's older than whatever. Conspiracy. The word conspiracy now has become ironically backwards, where it used to be like, you don't know what you're talking about, to there might be some truth to what you're saying. And so I think the
Yeah.
conspiracy people have been the one, they're the Scorpions. They're the Scorpio energy, Pluto, and they finally get to show up at Aquarius. They're like, it's time to release the floodgates. So that's why I'm really excited for this time to be alive, to be able to and it's not that I told you so experience. It's more like I love that this world is so much bigger, grander than it really is, versus when I used to live in this corporate media and fake reality, like Truman, I felt like I was being told a lie for so long that my body was no longer reacting to these lies and saying, no, we got to look further because too many people have been telling us lies now and we can't tell what is right or wrong. And so I think people are going to are going through that right now. And that's why we're talking about this whole mental issues happening to people because people are having a hard time coming to terms with these ideas of conspiracies. And people
Yeah.
really don't
No,
want
for
to
sure.
believe that their government's really like trying to hurt them, right? I've run into so many people. I was one of those people. I'm like, it doesn't make sense that our government is like evil people trying to hurt us. And then you read more about conspiracy, you're like, oh my God, these people are trying to hurt us. You learn anything about agriculture, you learn anything about pharmaceuticals, you learn anything about lobbyists at Washington, D.C., you realize they are paid to hurt us. And that's why. we're starting to have a revolution within the own people because people are like, no, let's start taking back our country by allowing states to have bigger rights than federal government because it is this overarching federal government, then overarching monarchy, like the England monarchy, right? Because we all experience this monarchy in do some kind of colonization. And so, but this is like a very, very old story that now is starting to come apart because everybody's doing their own research, realizing actually put the research together and everything that the colonizers have said has been a lie, right? Whatever the colonization concept is. And I think this is where you've experienced this Africa. I'm sure that there's plenty of colonization. I'm sure that the Africans are like, no, dude, your stories are bunk, but you guys forced us to tell these lies because you killed many of us, right? And so I think many of us who chose not to die, but to hold the secrets of the ancient went into hiding until the time of right now revelation. So people are going to come up and are going to speak up about this. I mean, my guides keep telling me, speak up of what you know, because the more of us speak up about it, the more of us will start correlating facts versus lies of whatever system. I mean, education, right? Do you guys know that educate in Western, at least in America, I don't know the rest, because I've studied and I've been in French countries too, so Western French countries. There's only like one or two book. McGraw-Hill is like the number one, number two, and number three books in education. So it's one
I don't know
organization.
if I know those books.
Yeah, but those books in Western society are your top books sold to Americans in education. That means that we've been living
What
under
do they teach exactly?
everything. Every degree you have usually has this one main publisher called McGraw-Hill, who every book from elementary down to college were under their publishing house. That means they publish a lot of our education. So if they were the ones suppressing information, they'd be able to suppress education K through college with these books. And those books are the ones that professors are supposed to teach, and they get in trouble for teaching outside of curriculum.
Yes. Yes, they get in trouble for teaching outside the curriculum. That's what my cousin was telling me because I was like, don't teach the kids that you guys built Angkor Wat 3,000 years ago. I don't know what the thing. I'm like, you're lying to them. You're lying. And she's like, I can't do anything else. That's what I have to teach. And I'm like, no, it's bad. It's
But
really bad.
but this is also then it goes back to like when money and survival with money becomes your necessity. You can see why many of us have been peddling the lies because they paid us to tell the lies, and anyone who told the truth were outcasted, outlied, probably suicided. You guys didn't hear there's 11, up to 13 scientists now have been suicided. They'd suddenly killed themselves, yet half of them went online to
Or
say,
missing.
I am not suicidal. I'm gonna tell you right now the truth that we have technology to leave the orbit. We have technology for anti-gravitics. We have technology for this is this, but I did not kill myself. And then a couple weeks later, 13 scientists are either killing themselves or just happening to disappear, right?
And then no less David Wilcock, one of the leaders of the disclosure movement,
Chose
speaking
to
of,
end his life through a suicide, a very public suicide. Like he called people to witness the
I don't think
suicide.
we're allowed to say that word. I
Oh,
see other podcasters say
it's
unalive
called
themselves.
unalive.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if it's something with the
It's
algorithm or what,
yeah,
but
it's because the algorithm again suppresses the word opposite of unaliving. So that's why everyone is to trick the algorithm for allowing us to say the truth without triggering the suppression of information. We are using these other words. So yes, I understand. We cannot use that word SUID, whatever. We have to use unalive. But but in
because
just
there's no
us
spelling bee.
but us saying this also tells you that we're in a very still suppressed experience of digital information, right?
Okay. Speaking of, um, all these like so many spiritual mentors at the moment on YouTube are being defunded and wiped out.
Yes.
This is, and I've got some mentors that happened to, and their businesses are crumbling. Basically, they're losing their homes, they're losing everything. So the spiritual community is definitely being hit hard right now, and they're being targeted using finances. This is
Correct.
for sure.
Yeah, David
And you know,
Wilcock was experiencing that as well.
yeah, all these dates, and it's so easy to say, like, the spiritual people, oh, we're supposed to be detached from the material. Um, and that is the goal. I'm not going to lie, that is the goal. But at the end of the day, it's difficult when you're living in 3D. You got to pay your bills. Everybody's like, should pay my telephone bills, pay my article bills. You know what I'm saying? So you got to pay the bills. So what, I mean, these oaks are getting stressed out. Like, um, shit's hitting the fan. Shit's hitting the fan. And that is definitely Neptune and Saturn in Aries, for sure. And then these oaks are actually coming out and saying it, or their YouTube's getting wiped out or demonetized, Uranus in Gemini. So those are definitely connected. I mean, they're at the moment they're sextiling, so they're almost like reinforcing each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Neptune and Saturn in Aries with Uranus in Gemini.
Yeah.
Um, Luckily, sextiling. I mean, this is a fusion of energies in somewhat of a harmonious way.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the Pluto
so
retrograde is going to, I think, disclose things that we have to go back to our most recent. So I feel like when we see a retrograde, it's that's reviewing transit, right? We're reviewing things that have just happened, right? Almost like inner reflection. We're gonna have an inner reflection collectively of what happened when Pluto first entered Aquarius, which was last year, January. So
no, it was before that.
I think it was during COVID, wasn't it?
No, no, it was a little bit after COVID, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, the point is it went in and out, out, in and out. So
So,
maybe you're talking about the last time it went in, you know?
right. So right now, what's really interesting is as this retrograde is happening, suddenly now we have pandemic part two. The hantavirus is starting to brew stories around this very bad virus that we have to prepare for. That's going to be like preparation for COVID part two. So that is very aligned with this retrograde of like, oh, let's redo this whole COVID experience, but let's do it during this retrograde because we're kind of replaying old patterns again. And I think is going to make people then become much more aware of this disclosure revelation during a time where some of us have not actually looked back at COVID and say, what did COVID teach me about suppression of information, right? And I think this Pluto retrograding is kind of like making us review things that happened to us recently that we didn't realize were involved in conspiracies. Because the COVID conspiracy is a big one, but that's the most recent conspiracy that happened to the globe. So as we're evolving our discernment of revelation and disclosure, the things that most happened to us recently are going to be also kind of with Pluto, gonna go dig some old shit up, right?
I feel like Pluto retrograde is definitely turning inward for reflection, like you said. But I feel like truth is revealed more when Neptune is retrograde, because it's that thinning of the veil. Like Neptune going retrograde, like takes the veil away, clears the mist, so to speak, for a brief moment to let you see the truth before it goes direct again and puts the veil back.
But I feel
So
like in that though, it's going to be more of this like spiritual inclination of divine wisdom and like the invisible forces. When it's Pluto, it's like a fucking
something about
virus.
yourself because it's
Yeah.
Aries.
Well, a
Yeah.
virus is there still, but it's hidden. It's in your body, right?
Neptune is set in Aries.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
all I'm saying is doesn't matter what we're in, one of
I
these
mean,
transits are telling us that there's a lot going on in this space.
it's interesting that you're saying hidden all of that. That's exactly it. Like I would say now, certainly while both Neptune and Saturn is in Aries, because Aries is right the physical body, the personality, the identity, but physical body. If you uh, Neptune and Saturn in Aries, what were you saying now? I forgot my train of thought.
That
Yes, hidden. So the disease like that's hidden in your body. Definitely, at least while Saturn is in Aries, which is like the next, it's got another 2 years, say, left. But also while Neptune is in Aries specifically, because Neptune is that hidden energy that Charlie was talking about, even a hidden virus, um, which is going to be like another 10 years, say, in Aries. A second opinion is required medically. Like get second opinions on your physical body because there's something hidden there. So you need second opinions, you need supervision of treatments, like somebody double checking that shit. That's what I can advise you. I don't think it's a concern if you do that. You should be fine. But I would, whatever diagnosis you get or whatever you think, get a second opinion, and double check that stuff
yeah,
every
and
step
and
of the
can we go
way.
deeper into the second opinion? Second opinion means a different perspective. Don't get the same Western doctors, okay? Don't get an opinion from
Or
another
even,
Western doctors who says the same shit, and then the third opinion from the same Western doctors. Get an Eastern doctor as a second opinion. Get another healer modality as third opinion because they're gonna give you a much more
or even
broader sense of what's
you can
happening.
do a Western medicine doctor, but make sure that that doctor is completely independent of the other doctor, that they do not operate in the same um, sphere,
That's
that they
hard when you have
completely
the same
independent.
degree, okay? Because we standardize our tests so that everybody
I
is the
hear you,
same.
but
Yeah.
I hear you, and I agree with you. Your method has got more control, but say now you don't do that, at least go to a completely independent Western
So the
doctor.
reason why I say
Don't
this
take your secondary
is
side.
because I mean not to also then sell what we do, but actually we have a machine called the Hocket machine. It's basically all about sauna, detoxing, red light therapy, rife machine. It's actually helping people who have a lot of toxins, have a lot of heavy metals. So if you have eaten certain foods, if you have taken certain things in your arm, if you have, live in a very high chemtrail experience, you have heavy metals. You've got these weird things in your blood clots. We have experienced the craziest blood clots since people have been jabbed, okay? So those are the things are hidden from you, still showing up in many medical spaces, but whether or not they're telling people, yeah, you might have some crazy clots because you took those special shots, that is coming up. And so we're finding then people who are saying, learn to detox, learn to fast, learn to release these toxins out of your body, because those are the hidden problems are going to cause more health issues. And so it's very important to learn because we used to fast and detox naturally in our everyday lives and culture. There's a whole concept of fasting in many religion, from Ramadan to the 44 four nights and 40 days. Like we have embedded cultures of fasting, yet today, at least I'm going to speak for in the Western world of America, people don't fast or detox. So that's an opportunity to release these hidden dark ones in your body that will kind of a lot of times when we do these saunas for people, we'll look through the sweat that comes out and we'll notice metal pieces in their bodies, like metal shards that came out. People are like, how did that metal shard come out of my pores? Well, they come out at little pieces of metal, but when they come together, they naturally attract to each other and they become bigger and bigger clumps of metal. Imagine those bigger clumps showing up in your body, creating these crazy clots that we talk about. That's showing up in a lot of morgues. A lot of people in their morgues are saying, "Hey, the bodies don't look the same anymore. They're starting to look like this crazy clots, this crazy nasty things in the blood."
Hmm.
That's a hidden
That I
stuff.
have heard, yeah.
Yeah, that's a hidden stuff that no one's talking about. That is this whole, Neptune Saturn in Aries that Lilith is
Microplastics
talking about.
breaking the blood brain barrier.
Exactly,
That's also hidden
microplastics.
stuff going on in the body.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's a lot of hidden stuff going in the body. You need to check it out, get a second opinion, check it out again, have somebody supervising the checking out.
Yeah. And I would tell you, if you want a second opinion, find either a functional doctor, right? Because at least it's still in your Western concept, but find doctors who are naturally good at using foods, using lifestyle changes, and using detoxing and fasting as their modality of healing. Because every other doctor is going to add shit to your body. You need things to be removed from your body. And that's not a
Hey,
common
don't be
practice.
dissing on the Chinese herbs, bro. On the Chinese herbs, as you Americans
Yeah.
say. The herbs.
Yeah, so many herbs, many cultures have herbs that were naturally parasite cleansing and detoxing. Chinese herbs as well, but like we're basically I call herbs a indigenous technology where indigenous tribes from the Asians to the Westerns to the middle, every culture has an indigenous practice that use plant medicine to heal a lot of the parasites and stuff that needed to come out of the body. Today, we don't eat any of those herbs. We take pharmaceuticals. And so, yes, we have Chinese herbs. One of the major things that we teach is purgative. We need purging herbs. And so many cultures had purging herbs because parasites were very common back in the days. And that's, I think, what people experience when they go out of the country and they start eating street food and then they get super sick. I believe it's because they're not used to eating a lot of purgative parasite herbs. And so in America, we're so filled with parasites because we're not eating any of these herbs. So when you go to these countries, and why these people aren't getting sick is because they're eating that street food that probably have parasites, but they're also eating herbs that are probably parasite cleansing. So they're naturally dealing with that. But if
Well,
you're suddenly eating their food and you're getting parasites, you're getting sick, but you're not taking those purgative herbs with it.
sacred medicine on that note is I didn't grow up with purgatives, but to prevent from getting parasites, because my dad used to feed me some raw meat. I used to love like raw sausage and stuff like that when I was little. But to prevent any parasites from forming, he used to give me like a shot of whiskey right after you eat the. So I mean, if you don't have any Chinese herbs or you can't get hold of the Chinese herbs, bring out the whiskey as just as good a job.
And then
You
ask for
didn't
more.
hear it from me, folks. You didn't hear it from me.
Yeah, I have to admit, there probably ain't better alcohol tinctures back in the days. I think today's alcohol is probably just as fucked up as our meat, just as fucked up as our herbs grown here in corporate agriculture, right? So yeah, I'd say, the old ways of, I think a lot of this whiskey used to be really alcohol tinctures that we used. Today, they're probably just straight up pure alcohol that you're getting wasted and getting drunk off of. But like, I do believe we used to have wines. We have wines in our medicine. And so wines are really good for blood moving energy. And so, but like wines was not supposed to get drunk on, right? But today we get drunk on wine. But back in the days, wines and alcohol and tinctures. A lot of tinctures were alcohol based. So we were using these tinctures, these alcohol tinctures, to support our health. But they were done in medicine dosage, not in getting drunk dosage.
And Chinese medicine usually just uses like rice wine. They don't really use whiskey.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
all for the whiskey
They
from
they
that
use
respect. It was very effective when I was.
they did use red wines because red wines was for the blood because red was connected to blood, so that's
Oh
why.
yes, it was the red wine. The
Yeah.
red wine.
Yeah, rice wine was possibly just for the drinking, but yes, we did use a rice wine for a lot of medical practices as well because it's really a good antiseptic. So if you wanted to have a very clean field, you were using instead didn't have rubbing alcohol. We had rice wine, and that rice wine was really good to create that antiseptic, energy before we had rubbing alcohol.
Yeah. So I just want to finish off with some of the sacred medicine around the disclosure and consent. So one of the things that you do when you give consent, when you've gathered your information and you're happy that you've got all the facts around the truthful facts around the circumstances, what you do is you've got to state to yourself your intentions and your goals around that consent that you're giving. So you have to be consciously aware of what you're consenting to. So wake up, okay? Become consciously aware of what you're consenting to, and then set the intentions and the goals as to why you're consenting that, because that's essentially setting your T's and C's, okay, around that informed consent, which is very important as well. And then and this also gives you like a mission statement, so you can always if there's any deviation, you can see the deviation from the mission statement, which is like your own values, and make an informed decision then, right? Rather than not even knowing a deviation has occurred. That is what I wanted to say. Because it's those T's and C's, what they do, that intention and that uh, uh, what did I say? The intention and the goals, yeah. around the consent. It falls under the law of consent. Oh, sorry, that falls under the law of intent. So you're pretty much dealing here with the law of consent and the law of intent. They go almost like hand in hand, those two natural laws. So that's what I wanted to say. Whenever you give consent, be aware that you're giving consent because we give consent blindly. And I wanted to say, why consent is so important. Like when our consent is manipulated, um, and it's not informed consent, this can um, multiply and essentially lead to like multiple species genetic annihilation and worse. I mean, we're not talking something small here. Do you know what I'm saying? You want to know why disclosure and consent is important. It's because, yes, it can wipe, being manipulated and giving the wrong consent over time leads to incorrect decisions. And this leads to wipeouts of species. So this is really a sacred medicine for the individual, but it is a huge contribution to the collective as well. So I think this is one of the most important sacred medicines we've discussed on the episode so far.
Yeah, and I'd say another sacred medicine is very important right now is, a lot of people talk about meditation or quiet time, and they keep throwing that word out without actually describing what meditation is. Meditation is simply just quieting your mind from external input, right? Because we're constantly bombarded by this external input. And in disclosure, we're going to get a lot of new things coming at us that make you rethink how you live your life, your identity. And in that moment, you need to then spend some time in a quiet space, in a room with nobody, no music, no nothing, and sit there and process the information. What does that mean to me? Who am I? And ask these questions to yourself. Let the thoughts come through and look at them and process them. And then you process them, they start disappearing. The problem is we're not processing information that's happening to us. And when you're not processing this information of what it means to you, whether you want to keep it or you want to throw it away, what happens is they start filling up your energetic field, what we call the unified field matrix around your body, or what I call the magnetism around your body because you are an electrical being. And when those thoughts are showing up, you have to process them and look at them so that when you finally process them, they say you're emptying your mind because you're processing your thoughts. Eventually, if you do that enough, you don't have a lot of information that's stuck in your field because you process them and then you've dealt with them. So it's kind of like what the East is say, empty your cup before you fill it up with more water, right? Emptying your cup means empty your thoughts. Empty your thoughts by processing them. Don't sit there and go, oh, I don't want to look at that. Oh, I don't want to look at that. If you don't look at it, it'll keep coming back and coming back because you have to process and eat it into your soul. Because when we say we are older than, 250,000 years as humans, what does that mean? That means we have so much cultivated knowledge by 250,000. That means us humans have done many things in many lifetimes, right? So that has to explain to you that we are this spiritual being who are eternal, who have been incarnating, doing all these crazy things. That will give you, so in processing that, you'll start to understand your greater meaning in life. And then that will give you more discernment of whether or not some of the revelation really matters to you. Like right now, like knowing these mermaids are real or not doesn't really affect me because I'm still like in my clinic working, doing acupuncture. Like a mermaid doesn't affect me. If I lived in the ocean, yes, knowing that mermaids are real fucking breaks my reality and I have to process that information. But right now, whether mermaids are real or not doesn't matter to me right now. And so I'll go, wow, that's beautiful. That's a cool idea, put it aside, and now I no longer have the mermaid thoughts. And that's why meditation, quiet time, allows you to process your own thoughts so that you can start discerning what works for you and doesn't work for you. And that is so important right now during this crazy time of all this Aquarian, Gemini energy all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. That was a good energy update, Charlie.
Yes. So thank you all. I hope welcome to the apocalypse and revelation. I hope you have time to
To the apocalypse. I love it.
we hope you have time to process your own inner divine wisdom and join us as we I will be back soon to share with you more amazing disclosure in this Lunacy and Logic podcast. So thank you, everyone. Until next time.
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.